Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Chase Garbarino, CEO of HQO, to discuss where the longer-term commercial real estate opportunities are. Chase, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to TradeTalks.
Hi, Jill. Thanks for having me on.
You got it. Commercial real estate is in the midst of a generational transformation. What does the current landscape look like?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you follow the headlines, I think everyone is aware of some of the challenges that you're seeing, obviously, with the rate hikes, right? And I think that's been pretty well covered. I think the good news is that, going all the way back to the savings and loan and some of the other crises we've been through, the feds and folks have certain tools to, I think, help the industry kind of weather the storm that really is, I think, pretty typical of a cycle. I think what's unique about this is there really is a secular shift in how people are working, right? And kind of the future of work looks very different post-COVID than what it looked like before. So, coming out of this, there really is a tale of two cities where, you look at certain developers and folks in commercial real estate, like Hudson Yards, one of our partners, which is run by Related, they're fully leased and they've got great occupancy throughout the week. Couple blocks over in Manhattan, you have some pretty empty buildings. So I think in terms of the flight to quality very much is real, and what people need out of the built environment is, pretty dramatically changed from pre-COVID to post-COVID.
Yeah, I mean, also dominating the headlines too is the safety of cities. I mean, we know what's happening in San Francisco. I think that's part of the equation as well, in addition to where we are in the economic cycle. And another thing, more than 3 years on from the start of the pandemic, that wave of residential conversions has yet to materialize. Why is that?
Yeah, I think, we end up getting a lot of kind of armchair quarterbacks online talking about, what we should be doing from, urban planning perspective. And some of these ideas are, interesting concepts. But if you just take out zoning laws and some of the, challenges with, local bureaucracy and government, and look at kind of the fundamental requirements going into converting a commercial office into residential. Just take the plumbing, for example. Typically on a commercial building, you have plumbing at each end of a floor. So unless you're going to go with shared bathrooms, which I don't think a lot of residents are looking for, you're going to have to completely replumb the building. The depth of the buildings tend to be, different than what you see in residential. So when you're thinking about, are you going to put units in the middle of a really deep building that don't have windows? Obviously, that's not going to work. So, some of the math that came out on this was that it could cost $850 per square foot to renovate a commercial office building into a residential building. And when you're getting up to those numbers, you're talking about, well, should we just knock it down, right? And you're just looking at land value. So I think the reality is a lot more challenging than kind of just the idea. But I do think, the future is going to be mixed use, right? Where you see success in the market, it's people that are bringing, live, work, play all together kind of within walking distance. That seems to be what the consumer wants.
Why is innovation the key for the future of commercial real estate?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been a really good business for a really long time. And if you just think about kind of office within commercial real estate, office was the cost of doing business, right? It wasn't really a question of whether you needed an office or not. And so when you have an industry that goes through a global A/B test of, all right, can we get work done without an office? That's kind of a very unique opportunity. And what the world learned was that the economy didn't stop when we all went home. Certainly there were challenges, but we found ways to get work done. And so I think that really puts pressure and scrutiny on, answering the question of what is the ROI of the physical office. So I think, as we emerge from this, commercial real estate needs to embrace what a lot of other industries have embraced, which is, technologies where they can be much more data driven about, are they delivering ROI to the customer? And so the only way they're going to be able to do that is if they innovate on the old model. So, transformation is hard, but I think there's going to be a stark contrast between the folks that kind of lean into, the much more malleable, flexible ways that people are working and leveraging technologies to figure out if they can cater to these new customer demands.
So where do you see the current opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, it's been, again, as I mentioned, when you have a business where your contracts are, 10, 15, 20 years longer than oftentimes the life cycle of the, how long a landlord holds an asset, it's a pretty good business. And so I think the opportunity and where you're seeing the groups that are winning is they're really orienting around this kind of consumerization of the office, right? Employees have a lot more say in where, how, and when they work. And so I think the folks who are embracing kind of a hospitality mindset and really saying like, look, we need to look and act a lot more like a hotel and be really, really obsessive about kind of the consumer journey at the asset. There's going to be a huge opportunity to kind of personalize, ultimately how people experience, the physical product of the workplace, but extends into all kind of commercial real estate categories, right? So multifamily, retail, if you can leverage technology to really start personalizing people's experience within the built environment, I think that's ultimately where, investors are going to find operators that do that, and they're going to get alpha there.
Where does the HQO fit in the CRE ecosystem?
Yeah. So, we very simply, we provide application for people, how people interface with a building, right? So when you think about, if you have a Tesla, you have an app for your car. Every bank, you now have an app for every bank. We think it makes a lot of sense that, you have a software platform where you can kind of interact and program your own day, kind of the whole life cycle of a user at a property. And so we help kind of bring landlords closer to the end user of the property, and we enable them to provide, a fully digitalized experience for the folks who come to their buildings every day. And when they do that, what they're able to do is actually learn the preferences and learn about how people use properties, right? It's been very much kind of a black box to date, where you have people come into the building and then they leave and you don't know much about what they like, what they don't like, and what they're doing. So, like many other categories, we all have to get as close to the customer as possible and really try to create a great customer experience. And so we're helping landlords kind of join the world that a lot of us have had to operate in when it comes to, being very customer oriented. So, that's where, we tend to partner with our customers.
Tell us about the recent partnership with Savills.
Yeah. So, Savills is a globally recognized real estate services firm. We're excited to be working with them. And what stood out about, their vision of the future is this customer orientation, right? So they're really taking kind of a perspective on the market that is not transactional, in the sense that, oftentimes real estate was very focused on, getting a lease here and doing a deal there. And they're really kind of taking a broader lens for their occupier customers, saying, what are your needs from a talent perspective? And then how does the physical office support that? And so we have combined with them to create some technologies where, we're going to be much more data driven about what different tenants need from their properties, because the way we all work is incredibly different, right? When you think about content production like this, it requires different physical setup than, say, an engineer who's writing code versus a salesperson who's trying to meet a customer, at an office. So I think we collectively have a shared vision about being very data driven about what the customer needs out of the workplace and how we kind of measure that against their business objectives. So we'll be bringing that to market in the next quarter, which we're really excited about.
All right. Sounds great. Appreciate the insight, Chase. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thanks, Jill.